Hey, is it
Hey,
okay? We're live.
how's it going?
Awesome. Hey everyone. So
See a
this
few
is
people join us.
Hey Sean. How's it going? All right. So awesome. So should we just get right into it?
Yeah, most definitely.
All right. Hey everyone. I'm Samira,
Hi, I'm Adam, and we're
and
just super excited for you guys to be here again for another one of our real talks.
yeah. So just before we get started, we have a couple of reminders. So we'll be posting some resources in the chat right now, and I'll have it pinned at the top of uh, just at the top of this so that you can just use it at any point. So over here, we just pinned the kids' help phone number. So if you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis right now, please contact a mental health professional. But yeah, so we'll pin this up. But
Awesome. And also, before we get started, we'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, TD Bank Group, and thanking them for helping us out with our online programming.
yeah. All right, so here, we're gonna talk a little bit about just some of the challenges that we've gone through. I guess we've never done this in a conversational style before.
Yeah, this is kind of new to us. Usually we're giving a speech out of school, like talking about it like in a very formal setting. So it's kind of nice to do this in like a little bit of an informal way.
hmm So yeah, so just before we do go in, we have a giveaway today. So it is a $20 Amazon gift card. So all you have to do is like our last post, share it on your story, and you just have to stay till the end of this, and we'll be announcing it at the end, and we'll just do a draw with everyone who's still watching. And yeah, all right.
Awesome.
Okay. So yeah, so Adam, do you want to go first? Do you kind of want to talk
Yeah.
about what some of the struggles that you faced and
Yeah, so our topic right now is like mental health and wellness, and yeah, I definitely went through a few mental health struggles, mostly during my high school and middle school times of my life, my adolescence, and then like it kind of continued on throughout university. Uh, I kind of started feeling like these problems kind of coming on around middle school, late middle school, where I just kind of like felt like sad, kind of like down all the time. And I didn't really think it was like anything serious, like no real like mental health problem. I just thought like, oh, I'm just like a little bit tired. Oh, I just don't feel so well. I'll just like let this whole thing pass. And I didn't really realize that that was kind of me starting to feel like depression in my life. And when these feelings kind of like didn't pass in my body, I started talking to my parents about them. And, at first they kind of like dismissed it a little bit, but eventually, after talking about it a bit more, we went to a doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, it seems like you have depression." Like he diagnosed me with depression and started telling me like, "Oh, you should take these pills to make yourself feel better." And I didn't really like that because I didn't really know what depression was, and I didn't really know what to think about it. I kind of felt like someone was like telling me that I was a little bit crazy. Um, and
yeah.
so yeah, I didn't really like that all that much. And then like going on into my high school life, I started dealing more with things like anxiety. I was very anxious most of the time. I had some very strange thoughts going through my mind. At one point, I think the point I realized that I had an anxiety problem was when I was walking around and I had this like weird feeling that I was gonna die, and like I knew I knew personally, like logically, that didn't make any sense. And that like I was fine. I'm like in Canada, there's no danger around me, but like my body reacted in a way that was like always like very tense, always on guard, and like this kind of thought loop just kept on going in my head. It was like, oh, you might die, and that was like
Mm.
when I realized, oh, I might have a problem here, and so um, you
Yeah,
know,
I can. Yeah, I can definitely resonate with that because when you have like that type of anxiety, one way I like to put it is kind of like you're in Final Fantasy. Is it Final Fantasy or Final Destination? That
yeah,
movie where you kind of think of these absurd ways that the world is going to kill you, but you know logically that it's not going to
yeah,
happen. But it's just it's what your mind kind of lets you on to believe.
hmm
So it can be really difficult in those times.
most
But
definitely,
I think we got a comment that said pills. Let's see, wait. What does it say? Pills don't always help. Talking to someone can really help. Yes, I definitely agree with that. I think that both ways. I think it sucks when you go for help and the first thing they do is offer you pills or
yeah,
tell you take antidepressants. You know, this is gonna help because that was, I guess, my experience. Like when I was in Bangladesh and when I was kind of struggling with depression and I was struggling with um, just a lot of anxiety. I didn't have like any resources available when I was there. And so I thought that, okay, we're going to actually take a flight, go to Thailand, which is kind of the closest place, which had some resources. But when I went there, I remember I went to the doctor and they told me that, oh, you're feeling depressed. You should go shopping or which was definitely like at the time like inside I just wanted to kind of scream at him, but I remember even when I went to the psychiatrist, like he was just like, okay, so you have major depressive disorder, so I'm going to prescribe you these pills for the next 6 months to take.
hmm
So it just really felt like they weren't listening.
yeah. I've always found that like it's kind of like the way that we see physical illness, we kind of see mental illness. People usually see mental illness in the same way. So they're just like, oh, like, if your stomach hurts, we're going to give you some Tylenol, or if you have a headache, you're going to give you some Tylenol. Like, oh, if you're feeling depressed, we'll give you these pills. And this is not me saying being anti-medication, because definitely I think medication works for a lot of people. I think in a lot of situations it is absolutely necessary, and like you should also always like you should listen to your health professionals, and sometimes it can be hard to find the right medication, which is why sometimes it doesn't. Um, the ones that they give you don't really work, and you have to have another one. But there are also like other different methods to treat things like generalized anxiety disorder, like major
Mm.
depressive disorder, things like there's certain therapies like CBT, DBT, like like just there are certain therapies that are other avenues, but sometimes that can cost a lot of like time for them and money for them, and sometimes the easiest way for them to kind of like treat you is like by giving you like these pills. And sometimes that kind of like makes you feel, for me at least, it made me feel a little bit like they thought I was like crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely felt that as well. I think, yeah, for me, what really helped was definitely therapy. I think just realizing that I could speak, freely and just have someone there listening, whereas not trying to constantly like do this, do that. It was kind of
Hmm
taking a pause for a moment and being like, okay, I don't have to do anything right now. I
Yeah.
just kind of have to accept what's happening right now. So, yeah, I think that really does happen a lot when you go with anxiety and depression. You go to doctors and it's like, I guess when you go to psychiatrists, I guess there's that difference that they're able to prescribe, and it's limited number of sessions as well. So we have a question. So, how did you feel when you got your diagnosis? Did you feel relieved? That's a great one.
That's a great question. Did you want me to go first, or did you want to talk?
Yeah, yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, for me, like when the doctor had said like, "Oh, you have depression," I was kind of like a little bit in disbelief. Um, I felt like uh, I kind of felt judged, like, "Oh, like why are you telling me there's something wrong with me? Why are you telling me um, that I'm crazy?" Like I thought it was telling me I was crazy, and like I'm not crazy, you're crazy. And like I don't know, I kind of had like a defensive sort of feeling towards it, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that mental health wasn't being talked about a lot at the time. Like this was around maybe 2010-ish. Don't quote me, like I'm not really good at mental math, but like around like yeah, like I think 2010 or something. And like nobody was really like talking about mental health. Nobody was like, I didn't have anybody going into schools talking about like anxiety, depression, all that sort of stuff. So it's just like I I don't know, part of me felt like he was like making it up, and I kind of got very defensive.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that as well. The defensiveness. We have a comment that says validation helps, and that definitely helped me as well. I think when I got my diagnosis, I guess I had Googled so much. It was taking self-assessments, and I was in psychology. I was studying it, but I just felt like I still don't know. So I just ended up like out Googling myself. And then finally, when I went to a doctor, it's like it almost felt kind of like a relief to know it for me because I had struggled with it already for a year and a half before I even got a diagnosis. So it was just kind of, okay, now that I know for 100% that I have it, what can I do?
Hmm.
So it definitely became a lot like that. But one thing I did realize is that when I was going through like the toughest times through depression, one thing was difficult was not finding that validation. Like feeling like it's like people talk about it, but feeling like still nobody understands what you're talking about. So it's like you're kind of like pulling teeth with people. It's like you're trying to get them to understand how painful it is.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like resonate with that. Like to when you start talking to people about the things that you're kind of going through, and sometimes, like you were saying, like that therapy helped because you had someone to just listen. Like sometimes people don't exactly just listen. Sometimes they're just like in problem solving mode and like telling you, um, oh, you feel depressed. Oh, just go take a nap, or like, oh, just go do this or go do that, and like you don't feel like they're listening to you, and they're kind, and it also almost feels kind of dismissive, like when certain people say like, oh, like everybody feels like this sometimes, or like it felt less. I feel like sometimes people think that's like validating, but like sometimes it can come up as like a little bit dismissive. Um,
Yeah,
that's
I definitely want to hold you on that.
yeah,
Everybody feels like that. Oh, that's like the
yeah,
worst thing. It's like the
yeah,
worst feeling to hear that when you're feeling it.
yeah.
Um, yeah. No, it definitely is. I've also heard that a lot. It's just like everyone, you know, or people are feeling worse than you are, or why are you feeling that way? That's another question that always got me really riled up. Wait, we have some comments
Yeah,
here.
we have a question. So we have a question. It says, are there any resources you wish teachers had shared with you during high school and middle school? When you, I mean, I'm assuming mental health resources.
Okay,
Um,
so Do you want to go ahead first, or is
Yeah,
there?
sure, I can go. For me, I definitely felt like wish there were um, resources that were like shared with me because I know I think it was in high school. Some teachers, like I think it was my French teacher realizing that like I was like looking out. I think this was like around grade 10, like looking out the window a lot, like not like really caring about things, not handing any of my schoolwork, just like a lot of these different things. Um, she ended up like sending me to guidance and stuff, and like um, I just ended up talking to the guidance counselor about the things that I were feeling. But like I feel like after that, I didn't really have anywhere to go. Like I didn't have anywhere like to point in the right direction of like things that I could have access to, like things like I wish that someone would tell me like about certain books that I could have read or just certain things that I could have done for myself to help me feel better um about the about like what I was going through in a way. Like things that I guess I wish that there were more resources there for things that I could do to help myself because I knew that not a lot of that I couldn't always rely on somebody else to
Yeah, I also agree with you. I wish teachers had shared more books because books are something that still to this day helps me a lot.
help.
Then also I think YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Right now, I guess it's very easy to kind of Google like how to feel better when you're depressed or
Mhm.
7 tips to help with your anxiety. But back then, I kind of wish that I had someone like to prompt me for that. So yeah, definitely. And I think we
Yeah.
have another question.
Mhm.
So what do you think is the best way to avoid bad thoughts that attack our minds, knowing how difficult it is to deal with them when you feel depressed? All right. So I can start that off a little bit. So whenever I'm feeling like really upset nowadays, especially now that COVID is happening, I think it's very difficult to always be kind of okay because the world is
Mhm.
not in the best of state right now. So in those moments, I think with my bad thoughts and when I'm feeling uneasy, I have some things that I do to make myself feel better. For example, if it gets really bad, I know I have to talk to my mom. Like that's just one person that always helps me kind of calm down. And if it's something where it's a really bad day, I try to start it off doing things I like. If I have like work to do, I kind of start my day off with like a cup of tea or read a book or paint. So really activities to help me take my mind away from everything inside.
No, yeah, those are very good. I guess like self-care kind of like strategies to use to help yourself kind of like take your mind off of like negative thoughts you might be having. Me personally, when it comes to like negative thoughts attacking my mind, like kind of like attacking my mind in a way, the best way that I found was kind of like mindfulness meditation. Um, and I know like that can be kind of like intimidating to a lot of people, but for me, that is just like recognizing my thoughts and accepting them. Because I found that a lot of biggest thing that helped me with like a lot of like my mental health was realizing that a lot of the suffering and a lot of the strife that came to me from like negative thoughts was actually me resisting the thought, me resisting these sorts of things. So if
Mm.
I felt like depressed and me saying to myself, I shouldn't feel this way, and trying to like get out of that and like resist it made me feel a lot worse. Um, and when I decided that, hey, I'm gonna sit with this feeling. I'm gonna sit with feeling depressed. I'm gonna sit with feeling anxious and kind of just watch it a little bit. I was able to more like detach myself from that feeling and kind of think, okay, I'm feeling depressed or oh, I'm feeling anxious. Um, and instead of kind of like just being in the feeling, I was kind of like able to stay to like take a bird's eye view of it and then I could just recognize it for just what it was, which was just a feeling. So that's like that was the main thing that helped me with dealing with mainly anxiety.
I love that. Like, you definitely like explained it to that T, especially when you're experiencing anxiety and depression. It's like when you're feeling depressed, your anxiety kicks in and makes you feel anxious that you're feeling it.
Mhm.
And acceptance is such a key thing. Like, I feel like, yeah, so someone mentioned like accepting your feelings instead of fighting them. I would definitely agree with you on that. That's something that I've also been using a lot of is that when you're feeling these dark emotions inside of you, when you feel upset, sad, or worried, it's just being like, it's okay. It's okay that
Mhm.
I'm feeling upset, not trying to constantly like fix it or make it be something
Mhm.
it's not.
Yeah,
So,
like a person that I listen to their lectures a lot. Alan Watts, he talks about like because he talks about like Buddhism and stuff and like meditation, and he's like talking about like trying to like think your way out of like a bad mind state is like trying to like smooth water by like patting it down. Like you're just gonna make more of a mess.
yeah, yeah, no, that's a great thing. We have another question here. So, have you ever met someone who, even after getting help and support from different sources, still don't know how to feel better? I think that's something that happens a lot. Mental health, when you're struggling with something, even just mental health in general, I feel like there's no um, okay, if I do this, it's all gonna be okay.
Mhm.
It's kind of a journey and it's a process. And um, I was going to add on with the acceptance bit is that sometimes when we feel like we're doing all these things and we have a bad day and we're just like, oh, like it's all like back to square one, all of it was for
Mhm. Yeah.
nothing. Like I'm not getting better. But it's a uphill battle, but it's still moving. And even if someone is receiving that help and they're still struggling, it does get easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, and it does get like easier little by little. Sometimes when someone feels like, oh, I've done all this sorts of stuff, and I know I felt this way before, like I've done all this sorts of stuff and I'm still not better, it's kind of like not recognizing the small victories that they have actually like achieved. Like things like, oh, like um maybe somebody wasn't able to get out of bed when they're feeling depressed, and now they can't actually do that. Those are small victories that should be celebrated. And I know sometimes I know the benchmark for me was just like, oh, like when am I gonna not be depressed? When am I not gonna feel anxious anymore in certain situations? Like those are kind of like impossible because those are just human emotions. Those are things that you probably have to deal with for the rest of your life. But
Mm.
like if you just get like a little bit better every day, that's like something to actually celebrate.
Yeah, definitely. Celebrating the little moments are so good. And we have another comment here. I want
Mhm.
to answer to this one. So, question your thoughts. Ask yourself if your thoughts are true. Is it necessary to believe every thought? And questioning thoughts really help to break the cycle of negative thoughts. So, that's a really great way.
Mhm.
And this is, I would believe, a CBT method of
Yeah.
challenging one's thoughts. I want to add in a method that I've learned more recently as well, which is CBT, but it's mindfulness based CBT. So
Mhm.
it's a very similar pattern, but something that I've been trying to move towards is so you have a thought, which is, I believe that I'm bad.
Mhm.
So in CBT, you challenge this thought and you tell yourself, okay, what's all the evidence that you're not? And you strengthen that. But in
Mhm.
mindfulness based cognitive behavioral therapy, you're looking at this thought and you're telling yourself that thoughts are just thoughts and you're just
Mhm.
noticing them and you're just saying that thoughts aren't true. They're not always facts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how you just add that acceptance into it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good like CBT like method that I've even used like, and for those of you who don't know what CBT is, it's a cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, it's like when you're focusing on like the cognitive parts, which is like your thinking, the behaviors, the things that you do, and then like therapy. And so basically, uh the challenging the thoughts thing has really helped because sometimes we kind of think that our thinking is always rational, and that's not always true. Like, for example, like, say someone has like social anxiety and like, they wave at somebody and they're just like, oh, they wave at their friend John and John doesn't wave back at them, and then like they walk away. And so someone who might have social anxiety or just like general anxiety might just be like, John hates me, he's ignoring me, I did something bad, and that might be because they have like a cognition that they're an inherently bad person, and they don't like themselves. But then if if they accept that, if they accept that like reality, they're gonna they and take that on with them. That's more evidence that they're a bad person. But if they take the time to recognize that thought, recognize it, and just question it, it's like, hey, what are some other reasons that John might not have waved back at me? Maybe John just literally just didn't see me wave at him, and that challenges their like that challenges their like perception, and then maybe that can like break a little bit of like their cognition that they're just a bad person and everybody hates
Yeah, yeah. I want to also catch another comment, and over here, it's hard to help people who can't improve in any way because you listen to them struggling day by day, but they can't tell you what they feel nor how everything started. So, I personally have struggled with that a lot. Asking when people ask, why are you depressed? Like, what caused it? And those why questions, because when you're going through it, the person really can't tell all the time. Sometimes, like, depression can occur from something happening in the person's life, or it could be little things happening over a long period of time where you have no idea what started it. So I think it's difficult when people ask you why are you going through it, because it makes you feel like, oh, like very worthless and incompetent. So for those feelings, I would say that that's where I guess I would bring in that acceptance again, is just that it's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel that struggle at times, because those are times where, just as we have to get help for our physical health when we're going through really difficult problems in our physical body, those are times where we really need to get professional mental health help,
them.
where it feels very, um, like a very big struggle every day.
Most definitely, and I think also I definitely agree with that with the acceptance. And also I think that when you're a person who's trying to help somebody who is struggling with mental health, um, you can kind of burn yourself out, um, thinking that you can it's what you can like kind of like fix this person. And I think the biggest advice is to have someone like who's trying to support somebody who's struggling with their mental health is that like there's nothing you can do that can fix this person, or that's nothing you can do to that can make them better. It has to be them that makes them better. So you so if you come from that sort of like point of view, you just have to kind of accept them where they are and where they're going to go, and know that it's them that has to drive the car, and you can only be there to support. So you can like listen, you can support, you can do all this sorts of stuff, but like don't kind of like tie into like, oh, I want this person, I really need this person to be better, because that's gonna that's gonna put a lot of stress on them, and that's also gonna put a lot of stress on you, as a person trying to support them. And a lot of the times, once again, if you're trying to support somebody too, you gotta like also take care of your own mental health. Like if you supporting this person is like burning you out, like emotionally draining you, because like it's very emotionally taxing. I'm not gonna like deny that at all. You might have to like take a step back, and like taking a step back doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just as long as you communicate to them, it's like, hey, like I kind of like to take some time to myself, but like I'll always be here for you. That is also like completely acceptable.
Communication is so key in it. I wanted to go into actually just about relationships, the people around us that may have affected. Like mental health and relationships is such a big thing because it's not just you that affects. Mental health can affect like all the close people around you. So, what are some ways that maybe it affected the people in your life, Adam?
I think for me, it mostly affected my parents because like they're the most like ingrained in my life at that moment, and like I just kind of felt like I was always like kind of like lashing out at them because they were trying to like help me in whatever way they could, and I kind of was like trying to stay like closed off and kind of like deal with everything on my own. I felt like I felt like um, in a way they were kind of like trying to like open me up, and like when someone's like when it feels like someone's like trying to like get into somewhere like you're closed off, you just want to close off even more, and that's what I and it kind of like made me like kind of like close off to them and shun them away more, which like wasn't the best thing for me and like not the best thing for them. But eventually I realized that like a lot of these things I couldn't do on my own, and like that accepting help was the only way like to make myself feel better, and like actually like that I realized that like no person is an island, and we need other people to help us, especially when it
Mhm.
comes to like mental health and stuff like
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, yeah, for me as well. It definitely affected my parents a lot. It affected my partner and my brother, like all my family, I think, at the time when I was experiencing it. It was, I think, the biggest thing for me was in my relationships. It's that everyone wanted to help me. And it was really hard for them to see me in the position that I was in. It was really hard for them to kind of see me sad and see me struggling so much. But at the time, like, no matter how much they tried to kind of do things to make me feel better, it was always trying to do something to make me feel something else. And that kind of made it more difficult because at times when I wasn't able to feel better, it would create, that uh, harder feelings for me. And yeah, so I think at a point I really had to kind of let them know that sometimes it's okay for me to be upset. It's okay for me to feel anxious. It's just a process. And I had to kind of take control of it more. Uh, yeah, so definitely agree with you on when you said like how at the end of the day it is you taking care of yourself and people can just be there as a supportive person in your life, but
that.
it would be you at the end.
Yeah, it can be hard because like when you see someone struggling, it's like you kind of you a lot of people would give their like left arm just to like just to like make the person that they love just like feel better and like not have to go through a lot of these things. But and it's kind of hard to accept that like that it's completely out of your control. Hmm. Okay, we have a few more questions actually. Um, so we have, how can partners and family members help with a loved one who's struggling with their mental health? So if you want to answer that, Samira, you kind of
Uh,
already.
yeah, sure. I'll answer that one. So loved ones and family members can definitely help still support their partners or uh, kids just by, I think, being there. Sometimes, like allowing space when they need space and like communication, I guess. being able to kind of talk to them and create that dialogue, that what they need in moments when they feel like that. And also, I think Adam mentioned this, like taking care of yourself is so crucial to the process as well. Because if you're not okay, you can't really help someone else be okay.
Yeah,
So definitely that as well.
yeah, definitely. Like I think last time on our Instagram live, Michael, another one of our speakers, was talking about you can't pour from an empty cup. So like make sure that you're not, once again taking care of yourself so that you don't get burnt out trying to help somebody else.
Mm, definitely. All right,
Mm,
hold
Uh,
on.
yeah, we have a few questions. Oh, okay. So there's um there's another thing I would like to know. There's another thing I would like to know. When you have had strong emotions that are not externalized, have you got physical signs of them? Um, for me, definitely yes. And like this is like another one of ways of how I kind of like dealt with my like anxiety, um, and depression, like mainly anxiety, because like when your body is under stress or like when your body feels like stress, they will have there's like physical symptoms of that. Like, and this is like sometimes this kind of like manifests as people going through panic attack when they can't like breathe, they feel very tense. Like for me it was a lot of tension. And the way that I externalized my anxiety was just tension, like in my body. And I always was trying to like figure out like how can I not feel this way? How can I not feel this anxious all the time, this tense all the time? And one thing I learned was that um, while it's your brain that can make your body feel a certain way, actually the opposite is true too. Your body can actually make your brain feel a certain way. It's like the pathway goes both ways. So like a lot of times nowadays, like even nowadays, I kind of have to stop. If I'm ever feeling like stressed out, if I'm feeling anxious, I stop and I think to myself, where am I holding tension in my body? Um, Usually for me, that's like in my back and shoulders, my jaw, um, sometimes even my arms. And a lot of times we don't realize like how much tension we hold in our body. And it's very simple for me. What I found was the most best way to deal with it is just taking deep breaths, like taking a second to like sit down and take deep breaths and like consciously try to like feel less tense, and that usually makes me feel a lot.
Yeah, yeah. That's a really great way to do it. Taking deep breaths and yeah, like tension is such a huge thing as well when you're feeling for me, like when I'm feeling anxiety, I feel that too, just the tenseness. One thing that physically for me would happen a lot was crying. So, for me, it was also like this anger that why am I crying? That would happen. So it's kind of this emotional, biological, like
Yeah,
everything working together, like your mind and your body. So you're just crying and you're getting angrier at yourself for crying. So it's natural and it happens. And during those times, I think what's helped me is definitely the breathing, taking deep breaths, and kind of letting myself catch my breath again. And yeah, cold showers.
yeah,
So when it gets tough, cold showers are really great for me. Um, but we have a comment, which is when others are trying to make you feel a certain way, it adds even more stress to the situation. And yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
could
I definitely.
definitely agree with that. You were go ahead.
Oh, yeah, 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 okay. No, I definitely agree with that because it kind of just adds more pressure about like, oh, like now it's kind of almost like a burden where it's just like I'm not feeling bad, I'm not feeling okay, and at first it's just like, okay, this is only affecting me, and then like another person's like, why aren't you feeling good? And then you're just like, now I now feel like a burden on somebody else, and it just puts even more stress on you. Definitely.
Mhm. So, we'll just go through maybe what are some things that helped us through it. Yeah, so what are some things that helped us through the depression and anxiety? Do you want to start?
Sure. So for me, like a big thing that helped me that was kind of like therapeutic was uh, dance. Because I found that a lot of my anxiety was like kind of like in my head, and like when I was able to do dance, I was able to like kind of get more into my body and kind of like shut off the thoughts in my head and like through like just doing things. It also helped me with diffusing attention in my body because a lot of the times whenever I was in my dance classes, like a lot of my dance teachers would point out tension that I didn't even know I was holding. It's like when you're hold, the only way that I can like describe it is like if you're like holding like a beach ball underwater and you're like holding it there, you kind of, and you're doing that for a long time, you kind of like stop realizing that you're holding it. But if you let go, you feel the release of all the tension, and so that's what really helped me with like a lot of my anxiety, and also helped me kind of express the things that were inside of my head that I was keeping inside, even if I wasn't ready to talk to somebody. Another thing that I did was like journaling. Journaling was definitely a good way for me to express those sorts of feelings too.
Hmm.
That was,
I love your beach ball metaphor. Like, when you explain it that way, I can definitely feel that too. It's
yeah.
like the struggle of putting a beach ball underwater. Yeah, I think dance is such a great way. For me, I guess, a way of expressing it creatively, kind of letting it all out, has been definitely
Mm,
journaling. Um, but more recently, it's been painting. So
mm,
sometimes I like to paint like simple squares and circles when I'm too stressed to actually draw something.
yeah.
Because sometimes painting can also stress me out if I'm doing like landscapes. But yeah, so just painting and letting my focus just go on the painting and nothing else. And yeah, so that's helped me a lot. And another thing I think that led to me just feeling a little better was reading. So I read this book and it was called, I remember I went through this whole phase where I downloaded a bunch of different self-help books on my Kindle
Yeah.
and nobody thought I was going to read them. But I started with this book called There's Nothing Wrong with You by Sherry Huber, and it completely changed my life. uh, I thought I would be reading it and I wouldn't really resonate with the book, but it was so simple and it said such simple things, but it spoke to me when I was reading it. And it was a lot about what we talked about today, like a lot of self-acceptance, a lot of just, um, constantly believing that we have to fix ourselves and that
Mm.
struggle that comes from it. Yeah, so
Oh, that
yeah,
sounds like
that
an
was.
amazing book. I've never read it, but like I definitely would love to check it out. Um, yeah, like I don't know. For me, I definitely feel you with the whole self-help books because I read like a lot of self-help books, like so many, and like um I found like to be honest, a lot of them weren't super helpful for me, but there was one book that actually really helped me a lot, and it was called 10% Happier. And I think it was by author, I think it was Sam Harris. I'm not too sure if I'm remembering that correctly. But like, it was a book about like this reporter who he was a very type A personality and like he suffered from a lot of anxiety and it got really bad and like eventually he started self-medicating with a lot of these different drugs. Um, and
Is it,
then,
hold on, is it the book about, is it his autobiography
yeah, I
where he
think
talks?
so. No, no, go ahead. Yeah.
No, no, that's it. I think I actually read the first part of that book too.
Yeah, it's a very good book. It's like he talks about how he ended up having a panic attack on live air, like on live TV, and like that's when he was like, okay, I gotta do something about that, like about this. He was like froze up and he had a panic attack on live TV, and like after like he'd been a reporter for so long. Um, and and once again, like it was about like meditation. And what I found good about this book was it was very like a good like layman's introduction to things like mindfulness and meditation. No like woo stuff. And the way that he described it was like, think about this practice. If you could do something for 10 minutes a day that would make you 10% happier, like, would you do it? And I was like, yeah. And like, I liked it because it wasn't promising me like, oh, total enlightenment and like all this sorts of like, all these sorts of like pie in the sky sort of like solutions. It was just like, what if you could be 10% happier? And I was like, sure. And I like that.
That's a really great message in there. I've heard about something similar, like to that rule, like I think it's the 1% rule, where plan your day with one thing in mind, or like 1% of it, where it's something you look forward to. So it just kind of motivates you to do that thing. So even if you have like a lot of tests and exams to do, a lot, yeah. But all right, so I think we have a winner for our so for our Amazon giveaway, but we'll after we wrap up, we will announce it. So we've stopped the polls and we'll announce it at the end, but we'll wrap up in a bit. So yeah, so I think that 1% in a day or 10% happier is just such a good message.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I guess before we end off, so I guess, do we still struggle with these challenges today? And maybe what are some of the things we do now to take care of them?
Um, yeah, like I definitely still struggle with these challenges today. Especially like during like this whole COVID-19 situation. I found that a lot of the things that I thought that I'd kind of like left in the past have been kind of creeping back up into my life, like a lot of these feelings of like depression, anxiety, not being able to do things, a lot of negative self-talk. And it kind of like just reminded me to kind of like go back to the fundamentals of like how I deal with these things in before. And so for me, that was journaling, writing my feelings down, externalizing whatever I was feeling. Um, and then also because I'm in the house all day and like, you know, if I wanted to, I could just like lay in my room and sleep all day. Just like kind of like telling myself not to do that, to giving myself like little breaks throughout the day, um, such as like, you know, going for a walk, getting enough sunlight, just like these little like things that help me give myself a break and like kind of like because before we you know commute to work or like commute to school and stuff, and these were our little breaks to like kind of like have time to ourselves, um, not always on the computer, not always on the phone, um, and just kind of like finding those like little spots throughout the day to um, find some peace.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I never thought I would miss like commuting. So taking a walk to the bus stop and all that. So I also miss those little things as well that now I guess we don't have as much access to in this pandemic. Um, but yeah, for me, I think it's a lot of finding little activities to add into my day. And yeah, it's been a lot of, I guess, more anxiety due to the uncertainties of COVID and just when, this whole quarantine will end, or will life go back to what it was? And I guess all of us have these worries at times. Uh, and what I realized helped a lot with it is just kind of taking it a day at a time and focusing on the present moment. So it has been a lot of just bringing my mind back. So whenever I'm overthinking it and thinking of everything that's happened, just bringing it back to the now. And also, yeah, it's been a lot of reading different types of books and just painting. Painting has helped a
Yeah.
lot. But yeah. Um, yeah, so so there's another question. What's the thing that most inspires you and raises your mood when you're thinking of it?
Gotta think about
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so I can, so one thing that raises my mood a lot when I'm thinking of it, uh, something, for me, it's music. So maybe less of something I'm thinking of, but I use music a lot to raise my mood. Uh, and I love Watermelon Sugar. Even though it's overplayed, I just love the song. It just really makes me happy. And movies. So I have specific movies that I watch as well that kind of help me stay a bit happier then and more positive. What about you?
I like, yeah, I like anything. It's kind of corny. Like sometimes I like watching like motivational videos on YouTube. They kind of like raise my like energy and like kind of like gives me like a burst of like, oh yeah, you can do it. Um, sometimes I also like to listen to music because music like it just always makes me feel something in my body, and it's like someone's emotions just kind of like being infused into your brain for like a short amount of time. So yeah, that's definitely another one. Um, and yeah,
Mm,
like those are like the main things that kind of like help feel
yeah, yeah,
inspired.
definitely. Um, I also wanted to add in, I don't know if we touched on this too much, but I think for me, when I look at like self-care and mental health, like the whole, like the very like a whole process. It includes not just like your body, it doesn't only include your mind, but also your body. So for me, like it's a lot of healthy eating. So even if I don't like my morning juices, veggie juices that my
Mhm.
mom makes, I know that like when I have it, it just makes my whole body feel better and it just prepares me for the day. So for me, it's a lot of like making sure that I'm not only like being creative and relaxing, but also keeping my body healthy, doing a bit of exercise, so keeping it more balanced.
Yeah, definitely on the physical level, is very important for mental health. Um, yeah, for me, it's like eating properly, making sure like I eat throughout the day, and like just very simple things like um taking like very simple things like taking care of your hygiene, like not because you're gonna go see somebody or not because you're gonna go do something, but just like to make you feel better. Like grooming yourself makes you feel better as like a human. Um, and then also, one thing was just like getting enough sleep was a very big one for me. I feel like a lot of my anxiety could have been was attributed to like not getting enough sleep. Um, that is definitely one of the big things for me in mental health. It's like one of those things that like I can't like I can never like compromise on is like getting enough sleep, like getting less than like 6 hours of sleep because I know
Yeah.
that's so important for me.
Yeah, I think sleep is something I'm still aspiring to do more. It's it's so hard to get that schedule.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. But we're gonna just announce the winner of the draw. So do you want to announce it, Adam? Do like a little drum roll.
Okay.
Oh wait, hold on.
Wait a minute. Okay, it says the winner here is Matt's underscore.
Yay! Awesome job.
Yeah, all right. So yeah, you win an Amazon gift card, and we'll be sending that to you. So yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And if you'll just DM us and we'll let you know. And yeah, so we'll be here next Monday. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think Michael and Lolita will be back in doing the live. So join in next week as well. But yeah, thanks
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you all for being here, and I hope we hope to see you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.